Hello. Now we are going to understand what is Spring Core technologies. In the previous video, you have understood what is a Spring Boot and what is it integrated of. Now, in that particular integration, we are going to Spring Core technologies. We need to understand basics of Spring and what is an applications of Spring, which has been developed from the core itself. In the core, we are going to understand the first part of it, which is called inversion of control, which is dependency injection, which is based on the configurations, metadata information, and as well as we are going to understand the different scopes and how do the particular objects are being created. So in Spring Core technologies, first thing is we need to understand the Spring Core as a container. So the Spring has as a framework which is having inside the context which is called application context. So it is an interface which represents Spring inversion of control. Is responsible for instantiating, configuring and assembling the beans. So the whole controlling of that particular beans is being used. The container gets into instructions on what objects to instantiate, configure and assemble by reading configuration metadata. So we are going to understand the various objects controlling. The configuration metadata is represented in XML, Java annotations or Java code. It lets you express the objects that compose your application and the rich interdependencies between those objects. That is where the Spring Core container have. These several implementations of application context interface are supplied with Spring. In standard application, it is common to create an instance of class path XML application context or file system XML application context. While XML has been the traditional format for defining configuration metadata, you can instruct the container to use Java annotations or code as the metadata format by providing a small amount of XML configuration to declaratively enable support for these additional metadata formats. So to access the container, so we can use application context. So in that the core classes which is being used, one is called class path XML application context, or another one which is being used where we are going to give an XML based configurations to the system as a basic bean configuration to instantiate and add a rule to that particular objects when it is getting created. The Spring Core container, what is exactly present? You are having a business objects which is actually given out for the whole Spring container. Next is you have a configuration metadata. So both the things which is added to it. So based on that, the objects which is actually getting produced, which is instantiated and produced, so it is going to give the full configured system ready for use. So this is where it is called a Spring IOC container. Now how does the configuration metadata will be given? So Spring configuration consists of at least one and typically more than one bean definition that the container must manage. So there are two ways in which we are going to give an XML based the configuration. One is called XML based, another one is called Java based. Now we are going to see how does the XML based configuration metadata configuration can be given to the Spring containers, and how can we configure the beans. So now in the XML based configuration there is a metadata configure which is called as beans as the tag, and inside that we are going to specify bean elements inside a top of the level which is called beans element. The Java configuration typically uses @bean annotated methods within an @configuration class. So this is the Java configuration based bean configuration which is being used. We will see the XML configuration metadata. So as we have seen in the previous slide, how does the basic the parent tag which is being used, which is called beans. So inside this particular beans thing, we are going to specify a bean tag with two attributes which is called as ID and class. So in the ID, the attribute is a string that identifies the individual bean definition. So it is going to create an instance based on that particular ID, and it is a unique name which is used to identify a particular bean. And here you are having an class, so you are going to specify the package name with the class name, that this is the bean class we are going to use. And inside this there are collaborative configuration for this beans, so on and so forth. We can put dependency injections based on constructor based or property based. We can just specify how does this particular object of particular bean can be instantiated with basic configurations. And also this is the whole structure for configuration metadata. We will understand what is a bean. What is a bean exactly? So in a particular bean means you are having the particular class which is specified with respect to setter and getter methods for that particular class, and as well as various other methods which is being used to instantiate. So we are going to have a particular class which needs to be instantiated. So in that particular case, when we are going to specify a configuration metadata and a bean class, the IOC container manages the bean by creating a configuration metadata which as a combination of it, and it will be supplied to the container. The bean definition, or represented as bean definition object, will contain among the other information the following metadata. One is called package qualified class name, bean behavior configuration elements which state how the bean should behave in a container, references to other beans that are needed for the bean to do its work. These references are also called collaborators and or dependencies. So we are going to see that how does the bean definition can be done. So here it is actually based on XML definition, so we need to have the various attributes as in configuration behavior. So you are going to tell that it is scope, life cycle, callbacks, and so on and so forth. With this an instantiation, destroy method. So all those things you are going to specify, and we are going to tell that this is how the particular bean class should be configured. So the class which you need to instantiate, so this is what the behavior you are going to specify. References to other beans that are needed for the bean to do this work. So you are going to give even the references, so it is REF. You are going to use it as a references to even tell that it is a collaborators, or you are going to tell that what are the dependencies which is there for creating a particular bean. You can have other configuration settings set in the newly created object for, like you need to, if you want to specify the size limit and you want to have number of connections to use it in the bean that manages a connection pool. So all those things you can specify inside this particular configuration. So bean definition, when it is based on the XML, so you can specify all these particular things. This is more important, where how do you represent a bean definition object. Now how do I access, if I get the bean in a bean definition we have specified all those specific details which is needed for our configurations to be done, and we have defined even the class and the specific configuration. How do we access that? How do we get to the particular instantiation of that particular bean can be done? So there are two different classes we can use it. One is called class path XML application context, or another one is file path XML application context. In what is a specific application? Application context is an parent of, it is an interface which is used to hold the the context which is actually present. So you are having a beans which has been defined in various different XMLs. So we are talking about XML based configuration. So XMLs, whatever has been defined with bean definitions, those things gets loaded with the each and every bean configurations, and the object instantiation scopes will be loaded onto an application context. So this will be one for the particular application if you specify this particular context as one. So this becomes a context in which the XML based configuration is being loaded. Next, you are having you can even extract a particular bean as an instance. So you can use this object as context.getBean. So now we are going to tell the bean name as a uniquely identified bean. So with that, you are going to specify the class which is actually extracted to that, and it will get an instance with that. So this particular object will have the complete the configured object will be written back from the context. It will be using the configured instance. So whatever the instance we are having in here, it is a configured instance which is gonna come. So this is how you are going to instantiate or define the particular class, the XML, and you are going to extract the the object from the context can be done. We'll see with a simple example. Now in the previous video we have already demonstrated with respect to a simple project how we have extracted. So based on that, we are going to create a bean. So first thing what we will do is we are going to create a bean. So in this particular bean, I am going to tell there is a message as the particular class. So inside this particular class called message, a properties will be defined. One is called int of id. Next, another one is string of message. So for this, we are going to define as an bean. It has getter and setter methods. So we are going to extract the getter and setter methods. So it is automatically configured to it, and we will also have another method which is being used. One is called to generate a toString. So that will give an extra information of what kind of object is being extracted, right? So this is about the particular bean. So for this is an example where you are going to tell this is an object which is being used with respect to setter and getter methods. Now we need to create an XML based configuration. So what I am going to do is we are going to create an XML file of this specific configuration. So I am going to tell that it is an XML based. So in this testboot.xml, which is an XML file I have created. Now we need to get the configurations which is being used. So what I will do is I will get it from internet. So the XML schema, there will be a general XML schema which has been defined already. So I'll just copy this particular part and so we are going to have this okay. So we need to define the beans, right? So I have already told you this becomes a class. How do we need to instantiate and control? So we are going to use the bean definition. So in this specific bean definition, we are going to specify first thing is called id. So ID means that is a unique identification for that particular class. So this is an identification name, and we have to specify the class which is actually present. So we need to tell about the package com.example.demo1. In that there is a class called the message. So this is what the bean definition is basically used for, right? So now what we are going to do is I need to access this particular bean definition. Now how do I access for that particular bean definition is I am just under this particular Spring application. So we can use two based. So I am going to use application context of context is equal to new class path XML application context. Next I am going to specify this particular class, and I need to specify from where exactly we are going to take the XML files. So I am going to tell it is a class path. Class path means it is already exist in our resources. So I am going to tell test boot.xml. So we need to give the extension also. Now this is about how we can take up the XML file configurations into it, and now I need a particular bean which is defined, so that is called as message. So m is equal to, I can use new also, and I can use from the context which you want to extract. So we will use bean. So in that I'm going to tell what is the identification of that particular bean, and with respect to message dot class. So what is the class definition which is being used. So now I got a particular message which is being used. So m dot set id, I'm going to do m dot set message, telling that it is hello world. This is the message which is being used, m dot. So I'm gonna just print it back. So what is that we are going to have is, so I am gonna print id colon. So otherwise I'll just print m. So it is gonna print the whole structure of it. So now now we are extracting an bean. So it is an class definition from the XML file. It reads the XML file, and from there we are going to display it back. So here we are just the total demonstration of that application context. Now we can see that this is how the object is getting displayed with respect to toString. So it is already defined in this particular message, right? So this is a small example of how does an inversion of control will happen. So we are understood that how does what is an inversion of control mean. So in an inversion of control, in a specific the inversion of control means you are actually converting the whole class definition. So in a particular framework, what is that we are going to the inversion of control mean. So inversion of control is known as a dependency injection. Okay, that will just tell you. So it is a process whereby objects define their dependencies only through the constructor arguments to a factory method, or properties that we set on the object instance after it is constructed or returned from a factory method. So this is what we are going to put some kind of dependencies added to that particular objects. The container then injects those dependencies when it creates the bean. So this is an dependencies based on the constructor based on the arguments or the properties that are set onto the object instance after it is constructed. So these are all the dependencies will be added when the bean is getting created. Bean is getting created means what? It is going to create an object. So that is called the bean definition. This process is fundamentally the inverse. Fundamental inverse means the name inversion of control of the bean itself, controlling the instantiation or location of its dependencies by using direct construction of classes or a mechanism such as service locator pattern. Means what? How it is getting inverse? Inverse is something like after we create an object, then the dependencies will be added. But in here what will happen is it is actually doing in reverse way, that it is injecting the dependencies during the creation of the object itself. So this is what is called as inversion of control. So we will go on with the particular thing which is called as dependency injection and inversion of control. Okay, thank you so much.